So hello everyone, I'm Karen. It's my last year of PhD, and I have to confess that when I started my study, I liked biology for sure, but everything that concerns hemostasis, coagulation cascade, signaling platelet pathway sounded very complicated for me. And my current team quickly transmitted to me the virus, the patient of this domain, and today, for me, it's a very great pleasure to present to you our results about hemophilia and about a very interesting and not very well-known serpin named protease nexin-1, or also PN1. So, who knows PN1? Raise your hand if you know PN1. Oh, I'm surprised. PN1 is almost famous. So, as I said, what a long way I have come since 5 years. And hemophilia research and associated treatment also come a long way. Indeed, don't you think it's amazing where we are coming from? All the way from the first recorded Hebrew text described hemorrhagic events similar to those of hemophilia. And where are we today? Since the first clinical description of hemophilia in 18, it took almost 2 centuries to considerably improve life expectancy of patients with hemophilia. And even at the beginning of the 19th century, life expectancy of a little boy with hemophilia was around 10, 13 years old. And now, thanks to many important discoveries, such as the cryoprecipitate in 1965 and the clotting factor concentrates in 70s, home treatment is now enabled. And life expectancy of patients with hemophilia is much the same as the rest of the population today. So I will explain what is hemophilia. As you all know, procoagulant and anticoagulant reactions play an important role on the regulation of thrombin generation during hemostasis. And thrombin is the final effector of the coagulation cascade and allows the formation of a solid clot in case of vascular break. In hemophilia pathology, the lack of factor VIII or of factor IX in case of hemophilia B leads to an insufficient thrombin generation, which does not permit to prevent bleeding. So current hemophilia treatment requires either factor VIII or factor IX replacement therapy. But as you may know, such replacement therapy is associated with a high risk to develop alloantibodies. And that's why today many alternative therapeutic strategies is still required, especially approaches that do not rely on factor VIII replacement. And 4 years ago, I came here at this key moment where many alternative strategies began to emerge. And today, we are currently witnessing a therapeutic revolution. And a new considered strategies implies the neutralizing of anticoagulant protein. Because in contrast to replacement therapy, the blockade of endogenous anticoagulant protein will not lead to the development of inhibitory antibodies against coagulation factor. So further in this vein, we propose another target, our favorite serpin, PN1. And PN1 is expressed by platelet and is a natural negative regulator of thrombin, since it can inhibit both thrombin activity and thrombin generation. We therefore hypothesized that in hemophilia, blocking PN1 could not only increase thrombin activity, but also thrombin generation. So first, we tested the effect of a neutralizing anti-PN1 antibody on thrombin generation in platelet-rich plasma from patients with hemophilia. And on this graph, you can see that in presence of an anti-PN1 antibody, thrombin generation is increased in plasma from minor and moderate hemophilia patients. So when PN1 is blocked, thrombin generation velocity is increased, such as other parameters like the maximum concentration of thrombin generated. In contrast, we didn't observe an effect of the neutralizing anti-PN1 antibody on thrombin generation in the plasma of severe severe hemophilia patient. So a minimum of factor 8 is thus required to observe an enhancement of thrombin generation with a neutralizing anti-PN1 antibody. So we were a little disappointed by these results because blocking PN1 didn't turn out to be the miracle cure. And nevertheless, it could be an helpful adjuvant to the replacement therapy. It could reduce the number of factor 8 injections. So to confirm our data, in vivo, we established a double knockout mouse line for both PN1 and factor 8 to investigate whether the deletion of PN1 can restore the hemorrhagic phenotype of factor 8 mice. So we tested the thrombin generation on platelet-rich plasma of these mice, and as we observed in the plasma of severe hemophilia patients, we didn't see an increase of thrombin generation in double knockout mice compared to factor 8 deficient mice. At least we had consistent results between mice and men with severe hemophilia. So that was a good point because this is not always the case. And until then, we had only used tissue factor to trigger thrombin generation. In this condition, with tissue factor activation, platelets are not activated by subendothelial molecules like collagen. And moreover, PN1 is contained in platelet. So we decided to add collagen to trigger thrombin generation, and in order to potentiate platelet activation and to promote the release of their granule contains. And in this condition, with tissue factor and collagen activation, double knockout mice exhibit a greater thrombin generation compared to factor 8 deficient mice. It's the blue curve on this graph. So our strategy consisting in neutralizing PN1 makes sense, and we decided to proceed to in vivo experiment. So we used a first bleeding model, a classical model of bleeding, where veins and artery are both sectioned. And this model, as expected, bleeding time and volume were increased in the factor 8 deficient mice. And in double knockout mice, complete restoration of bleeding time and volume were observed. So how big is our surprise to see this complete restoration of bleeding time, especially in view of thrombin generation results? So I spoke about these results with some experts of bleeding time, and they told me that this bleeding model is not a reliable model because this model shows very heterogeneous results in hemophilia mice. So we decided to perform another bleeding time model, which allows a greater reproducibility and a greater sensitivity. And this model consists in cutting only the ventral artery of the vein. And in this model, we observed a decrease on the bleeding time and volume of double knockout mice compared to factor 8 deficient mice. So these results were very encouraging, and we performed these results on a tail lateral vein, and we observed similarly results. So we decided after to refine the role of PN1 on clot formation. So we performed another in vivo model, the last one, a thrombosis model induced by ferric chloride on mesenteric vessel. And the formation of the thrombus was monitored by intravital microscopy with platelet label in red and fibrinogen in green. And at that time, I was very happy because we observed in double knockout mice an increase of platelet accumulation and fibrin deposition on mesenteric vessel compared to factor 8 mice. We didn't see the formation of an occlusive clot in double knockout mice, but this increase of platelet accumulation and fibrin deposition were consistent with the decreased bleeding time observed previously. So In view of these results, I hope that I convince you that blocking PN1 could be a new medical concept to treat minor or moderate hemophilia, and in particular as an adjuvant to the replacement therapy in severe hemophilia. And it could be very interesting to develop compounds neutralizing PN1 much more effective than our antibody used during experiment. And the strong point of this future strategy will be to block PN1 directly in platelet, thus directly within the clot, without the risk to inducing thrombosis. But this is another story. And finally, I want to say that in research today, a scientist never works alone, especially for a baby researcher like me. And behind every research is a teamwork. That's why I want to thank people who participate in this work. That means the team of Cécile Denis for the establishment of bleeding model, the Center of Hemophilia of Mignot Hospital, and the Dr. Emmanuel Derecourt for the patient recruitment. And last but not least, I want to thank my supervisor, Marie-Christine Vouton, and all my team for helping me and encouraging me during the past 4 years. And thank you for your attention.